Good evening, everybody. This is Morbid. You're listening to the Pulpit of Doom live stream, and with me tonight I have Old Man Metal and Jaded.
Hello.
How y'all doing?
It's been a couple weeks, so we're gonna make this kind of a this probably won't be a normal format. This
says waiting.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
It's probably still going. I think you guys are on a delay.
All right, cool.
If you're watching it live, but this would be I guess somebody is saying it's still waiting. No, it says I'm streaming.
Cool.
All right, we're good. We'll go. But anyway, this won't be a normal format, as you can tell already. We've got some site changes coming up that I wanted to talk about that we had posted, or I had posted in the forums about. It had been a long time coming. And after talking with Jaded and Metal and some other people, I think we found a kind of happy medium to where basically we're going to kind of go back to a time in Dreamin' Demon's lifespan that a lot of you may not even remember. And you know what? I've got some other apps open here I need to close real quick.
All right.
Or you're going to hear people joining a movie stream I was watching. But we're going to go back to the way we used to do things a long time ago, to where the forums basically were providing the content for our front page. So it doesn't really take away anything from any members or viewers that come to the site. They'll get the same stuff that they always get. We'll still be writing articles, and they'll still show up as normal. But it'll also be populated by forum member posts. They submit stuff every day, sometimes, or a lot of times they post them before we can even write them. So this way we can keep the site populated with not just the crime stuff, but we can also get some things posted like we used to in regards to other media, especially in the dark or horror related type stuff. So it's something we've always wanted to do, and we tried to do years ago when we had enough writers to do it, but, things happen, and it just never stayed around too long. So this way that should solve that. So I was going to do this podcast, explain all that, and show you real quick exactly what I'm talking about. This is mainly for the forum members. If they have any questions, I invite them to definitely ask, whether it's in the YouTube chat or in the Discord chat, and I'll be more than happy to try to answer anything. I just don't want to try to type out a long-ass post trying to explain certain things any more than I have already. So, but hey, Jaded and Metal, you guys have seen what I'm talking about, and honestly, it looks like a pretty good idea, right? That should work pretty good.
I think so. It looks really good, and it's like you said, it's going to let you push more content out easier. So that's always a good thing too.
And that's actually been the biggest problem, as I explained in the forum post I made. Is just that we've been running now for 15 years, and life changes, happen whether you like it or not, and my time has just gotten to the point to where it's really, really tough for me to get content up on that front page. Even with all the much appreciated help of the other writers putting in, it's just hard for me to get that stuff going anymore. And I'd hate to see the site just dwindle up and die just because I don't have time to run it like I used to. So I feel if we can take advantage of the forum activity to populate the front page, that's all I really care about. And if we just make enough money to pay for the damn server, I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine at this point. So that's it. That was actually a hell of a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be.
Well, you might want to explain the commenting and how that's going to affect people who are used to visiting the front page and not the forums.
Well, I know normally, and I was just talking to Metal about this, normally our podcast listeners are forum members, but if there are any other people from the front page who may be listening, the biggest difference will be not much if you just read the stories. There won't be much difference at all. Except there'll be a lot more content on a daily basis from a variety of different genres. Not only just horrible crime stories, but there'll be other interests in there from things like horror movies and metal, other stuff that we actually like, and books especially. And that's one I didn't do yet, so I need to make a post to see what that looks like. So none of that will really change. It'll just be a lot more content, and you will be able to filter it, I'm pretty sure, via categories that will be listed under articles. So if you just want to check out crime stuff and you don't care about books and crap, we'll have an option there for you to be able to filter that. But for front page members is where the biggest change is going to come from, is discuss. Unless I can find a way to implement it, will probably go away. So if you've been commenting via discuss, which I don't like, actually, but I just didn't really have a much better alternative. To comment, you would have to use the forums as a registered forum member. Now, for the people who don't want to sign up for forums or whatnot, I'm going to look and see if there's a way that there's a bridge of some type for either discuss or even Facebook commenting, to see if there's a way to pull that in. I know they do have ways to do that in certain types of setups. I just don't know if there's one for our particular forum software yet. So that's just one of the myriad of things I'm working on right here at the moment. So that I think that would be the biggest change for people who just visit the front page. Wouldn't be access to read or see articles. It would just be the commenting portion would be different. Now, as far as forum members go, there will be absolutely no change whatsoever for you guys, except for what we're trying to do right here at the moment is we have, and always have had, separate categories for things. We've always had them split up in two, because for some of you may remember, we actually did try running a standalone horror site. And when that turned out to be a just complete failure on my part, from again, not having enough time, we just put the horror related stuff in the forums. So there was a Dreamin' Demon portion of the forums, and there's a Screamin' Demon portion of the forums, and the Screamin' Demon was always where we held all the forums for books and movies and music and all that shit. So what we're going to try to do is get some people who want to volunteer, I guess, at this point. I mean, hopefully at one point I'll be able to throw some perks of some type in there. I don't know what. But where they can take over and kind of mod their own particular forum, whatever their interest may be in. And basically, their only duty would be is that if they want to provide content for it, that would be awesome. But if they see particular threads that somebody makes that they say, oh, that's a pretty good post, you'll have the ability to actually promote it to the front page yourself, which I think is going to be the biggest change and the one that I'm looking forward to the most. So,
is there any way that promotion can happen by popularity all on its own, or does it have to be?
It would have to be a manual process, only because there are a couple fields that the person promoting it would have to set. So
Gotcha.
That's all. And once we get a couple moderators in, I have a thread about that, and we have some people interested in doing it. We'll probably just get together in a Discord chat, and I'll run them through it and show them. It's very easy, so there's nothing really complicated about it. And if you fuck up or whatever, you gotta do is let one of us know, and we'll fix it. Sorry, but yeah, for forum members, that's the only difference. Aside from that, I will probably get rid of the 3 things thread. I'm probably just going to get rid of politics in general. I'm not going to ban people from talking about politics. I'm just not going to have a politics-centric thread. Not right now.
Good idea.
I don't know about the rest of you, but when I go online, I'm about sick of seeing the insanity surrounding anything political, and it's just... It's brain numbing, and it even happens on our forums. And I'm not calling anybody out in particular. It's been going on for the last few years already, but the days of having civil discourse over disagreements are long gone. Long gone. People can't seem to do that any longer, and it's a nightmare. And we get lots of reports we have to field, and it always seems to be the exact same people that just can't seem to do it. No matter how many rules we put in place, no matter how many threats we do, it just doesn't seem to stick. So I'll probably end up just removing it. I mean, unless you guys have any objections,
None here.
I mean, our forum's not built around political discussions like that, and and just to be blunt, none of us are really authorities enough to. It's just ridiculous to see people all of a sudden they're like rogue scholars all of a sudden when it comes to politics, and it's just when you mix that in with threats and calling someone a cunt, it's just ridiculous. I don't feel like dealing with it.
I gave up arguing politics years ago before it got as crazy as it is now. So
well, we used to have fun with it. It was a very popular forum on our site, and this would have been many years ago. But we used to have some pretty good debates on there. But normally it was very civil, and any zingers or whatever were done in a clever way.
Yes,
people.
But yeah, it was a debate.
Right,
Actual
but
one side versus another side, not you're a big poopy head. No, you're a poopy head, and your president sucks.
That's what I was going to say is for the most part, at least back in the day, including that forum that particular forum on our site, you won an argument by facts and logic, and that's how. You remember that's back when the likes first came into play. I think it was even before Facebook had them. Forums already had them, and that's how you quote unquote won arguments on who could get the most likes, but on the flip side of that, there were occasional situations where you would actually see people's opinions change from when they started once presented with all the facts, myself included. I remember when we first started the site, I was a very big proponent for the death penalty, and now I am not any longer. And that was because of a forum debate into where some facts were presented that I, in turn, didn't want to admit during the debate, of course, but afterwards when you look up the facts of it, it's anyway, I'm not going to get into that subject. But the point being is people could actually have their minds changed when presented with stuff. But now it's just fingers in the ears and a bunch of nah, and calling each other names, and it's just ridiculous. It's like watching children argue about something over a toy. And I just don't want to deal with it. And I know you guys don't want to deal with it. And I know Sabrosa, the angel of the forums, it absolutely does not want to deal with it anymore. If she had it her way, we'd lose about 10 members.
I bet.
All I'd have to do is say, go ahead. But I always...
That sounds like it's on the low side, though, but okay.
Well, and these people know who they are, and even anybody listening knows who they are. But it's always the same handful of people, and it has been for years, and I've just... If I'm in the forums a lot, I don't want to see it, and then I will start banning people. And then when I don't go in the forums any longer, and the front page, then hypocritically, I don't give a shit. And I leave the mess to Sabrosa to deal with. But now I'm coming back, so I ain't dealing with it. I hate
look
it.
out.
Yeah, just saying. And we have some lax-ass rules, man. I mean, there really are no rules. The rules basically are just don't do anything illegal. And if a mod or staff member tells you to stop doing something, just stop doing it. It's really that simple. But even that has problems.
Well, you've always got some people on forums that are there just to be defiant and to be contrarians and be a pain in the ass, and that's what they're there for. So
yeah, and for the most part, and you're 100% correct. And for the most part, I don't really care too much about those types of people. Sometimes they bring in the most drama, which I actually do like. I just don't like it when it starts overtaking every single thread posted, which is what happens. People start following each other around.
Right.
And that's when we'll usually step in and say, yeah, that's enough. You guys are good. Let's cut it out. And then they just don't. And then that's when it starts getting very aggravating. But anyway, I think that's it, really, about the forums. And again, I'm kind of working on the site live. You can easily see what I'm talking about. This is not the finished product, but if you're on the forums, you can click the home button, and you can kind of see where I'm testing some certain articles. I think I just promoted one of Sugar Cookies at random earlier, just to see what it would look like if we just grabbed a random thread and promoted it. So you can kind of see what we're aiming for, and keep an eye on it. We got a lot of stuff to work on. I'm just kind of kicking the tires at the moment, but we will definitely be going to this. I don't have an actual trigger date on when I'm going to pull it, so we'll see.
And the chat on the front page of the forums.
No, we probably won't put the Shoutbox on the front page of the forums. I can put it on there, but I'd rather keep that inside the forums for just members. I'd rather not have that out for just general public just to sit there and read for a couple different reasons. One is just go in the forums, and two, I would imagine that people who are only there to read articles really don't want to hear about somebody's fucking green bean casserole recipe. or whatever may be talked about in that chat. I think that really...
Or the Chestnut Hill cheese shop.
Or whatever. So, right. So, yeah, I think we'll just keep the Shoutbox in the forums. Now, there was always not a debate, but always going back and forth on putting the Shout on top of everything everywhere, which we don't do. Currently, it's right at the top index. So, the only reason why I didn't do that is I think at one time or another, the Shoutbox we were using sucked up a lot of resources, and it actually went up really high when it was running on the top of every single page somebody went to. So we just kept it on that one page. But I'm open to anything. We can check it out. So, but anyway, like I said, the further we go, the more we'll see, and we'll get a feel for things, and I'm sure that the members will let us know what they like or don't like, and we'll just go from there. Not that I'm going to try to appease everybody. I'm just mainly trying to appease myself, but I am open for suggestions if something's not working quite right. And since I'm going to be back in the forums, I'll see if I can get the like icons working correctly for people on mobile phones. I hear some people are having problems with that, but so anyway, so that was it. And of course, we've been off, or at least I have been off for the last, it's been a couple weeks. So I haven't really been following the news much, and we haven't gotten a lot of content posted on the front page, but we did have a 2-week gap of some stories. If you guys want to run through some of them real quick, we can, because I think this is going to be a shorter than normal podcast tonight, but we do have some stories if we want to go ahead and talk them. It's up to you guys.
I'm game.
All right.
Sure.
I have no order in far as their popularity or anything to that effect. So I'm just going to start with the bottom one that we did and just work our way up to the most interesting ones. And I only think I have one, so the rest are actually you and Jaded. So Jaded, I don't even know if you remember what you wrote.
Nope, not really.
Well, we can go through them here real quick. I think the last one I posted, which I can't believe, was actually September 25th was the last story I posted, and that was over the guy in Utah.
No, you have another one after that.
I did?
Yeah. You had one on September 26th.
Oh, I'll be damned. I did. God, it seems like forever ago. Huh. Let me see. We'll just go through some of that. This was the one out of Logan, Utah. Where the teen had posted, oh man, I remember this one now. Hold on, let me get his picture up here so you can see it. Manuel Zamora, he's an 18-year-old who got caught filming. Oh, Jesus Christ, get this. He got caught filming his sister. I guess what he had done is he put up some type of a hidden camera that was filming his sister in her bedroom, to where, like, when she was getting changed and stuff. And
nasty fucker.
Well, even worse, he was actually taking the videos and then submitting them to a child pornography website.
For cash?
No, more more than likely because
for street cred with other perverts.
Well, it's
Facebook likes.
No, it's for more material. Most child porn websites, you can get a membership to them if you submit original content, and then more people will trade their original content with you. In other words, you can't. I
had no clue.
Yeah, because otherwise a cop, which I'm sure does actually happen, but these sites are set up to where if a cop or somebody comes in there and says, "Hey, give me some child porn," and the guy goes, "Here you go, buddy," and gives him some child porn, and then the guy's busted. So the only way that somebody will trade with you is as if you in turn trade original content. It can't be something that's been seen, that's been circulating that you could have just grabbed somewhere. So he was submitting original content. Now, that being said, I don't know if that's why he was actually doing it. He may have been getting paid. I don't know. But either way, it was a pretty damn skeevy thing to do. I can't imagine his parents, man. As a parent, I don't even know what the hell you would do. I have just absolutely no idea. And I know I'm guilty of running to my kid's rescue. Not a helicopter parent, but I'm just no legal stuff better than they do. So I don't have a problem stepping in when I have to. Man, I've got some stories I could tell. I just don't want to put them out in public. But it comes to something like this, man, I don't know what you do. I'd hire him if I had to. I might help him out with a lawyer. That might be the extent of it, though. I don't know if I could actually defend my son submitting my daughter's nude pictures to a child porn website. That's a stretch. Getting caught with a bag of weed.
No, I couldn't do it.
As I was saying, getting a bag of weed, maybe a hit and run, maybe a body in the windshield. Those all rank up on things that I would definitely probably try to help with over this.
Yeah, that's pretty low down. Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. So anyway, he got charged with 8 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor. And since this was done back on September 25th, I don't know if there's been any updates on it or not. I have no clue. Let me see. Oh, yeah, my phone is also not on silent. This really was kind of impromptu here. I don't know what the next one is. If somebody wants to grab it, my site, as everybody can see right now, I just ran out of memory. It did. It just popped up. My browser ran out of memory. All right, here we go. The next one was yours was Mike. This was the one out of New Jersey with the guy that was in prison for child porn, got caught with child porn in prison.
Yeah, some people just don't learn at all. And this guy's a perfect example. He's been through the mill like 3 or 4 times over child pornography. He was in federal prison in New Jersey. He was at Fort Dix in Camden, New Jersey, and he was doing a 15-year bid for possession and distribution of child pornography. And he got caught with child pornography in jail. He had memory cards containing 1,200 pictures and videos of kids, some of which depicted, quote, sadistic and masochistic sexual conduct involving infants and toddlers, which shows you just how sick this particular dude is. So he was 10 years in on that 15-year sentence, and he got busted. He was driving a tow truck, living at home with mom and dad, and trolling teen boys online, and he ended up reeling in an FBI agent. And this sort of goes back to what you were saying, and this is just kind of weird to me. And it's one of those things that, it's just a detail that was in the article with no comment, but it stuck out to me. So he's trying to get teen boys to send him naked pictures, and he ends up getting hooked up with this FBI agent. And in trade, the FBI agent gave this dude pictures, quote, from his own childhood, including one that showed him in a wrestling singlet. And I'm thinking to myself, who the hell gives a pedophile pictures of themselves as a kid, knowing what he's going to do with them? That was just weird to me.
I'm sure a psychologist could have a field day with that one.
You know what I'm talking about? So anyhow, they bust him. He gets caught with 800 pieces of child pornography. And at the time, he was already a registered sex offender in Pennsylvania and Delaware and was on probation over getting caught with 500 pieces. And before that, in 97, he got arrested for driving around jerking off in front of teenage boys. So this dude's just been, through the program over and over again. And they finally put his ass in federal prison, and he gets caught with more child pornography. And it turns out he was one of 8 people that they're calling a child pornography ring at Fort Dix. They had cell phones, memory cards, internet access, child porn on the cloud, all sorts of stuff. And that just sort of makes you wonder what the hell is going on at Fort Dix. So he got caught, and he was just sentenced to another 13 years and 3 months of federal time. So if he can stay away from the child porn, he'll be out in another 28 years maybe. Or he'll probably get caught again. I mean, obviously, this guy's not going to change.
I got an interesting bit of trivia for you.
All right.
Fort Dix. That's also what they used to call Jaded's house back in the day.
Oh my God.
Right? Remember that shit?
That was bad. That was just really fucking uninventive even.
That was funny.
You are stretching so far. See. Yeah, they're all in jars. God, make it sound bad.
No, now I'm going to use that all the time.
It's
I don't even know why. I don't even know. No, it was good, and I'm going to bring it back.
Ugh.
I got a buddy of mine that gives me shit all the time. I go shooting every weekend, and I don't know why I do it. It's not because I don't know the right terminology. I just must like the terminology, but I keep calling my magazines clips, and it drives him absolutely nuts. So, of course, I will use it wrong every single time I'm around him.
Just to drive him nuts.
Fucking annoying like that.
And it embarrasses him when I do it at the range, in front of the range people.
He's like, I can't believe I bring you in here.
Yeah. It's not a fucking clip. Oh, yeah. A mag. Sorry, man. Let's see here. Home daycare owner admits drugging, tying kids to car seats for hours a day out of Mesquite, Texas.
Yeah, this lady's something else. So she has been running a daycare out of her house for the last 3 years, I believe it was. Had passed all the scheduled inspections and different checks that they do to make sure that you're not up to no good, and had a good history with the state. The only thing she'd gotten hit for was a minor thing, not having a written emergency response plan, which is, that sounds like maybe a big deal, but that doesn't mean you don't have a plan. That just means you don't have it written out the way the government wants you to. So, compared to some of the stuff that we see with daycares on the site, that's a pretty squeaky clean operation. And until a family put a video camera in the car seat of their child, and the child was, I believe, 6-month-old, and they captured this video that showed her yanking the kid out of the car seat and then feeding him something out of a syringe. And they don't give any more detail about other stuff that was on the video, but they videotaped it on Thursday, September 13th, and the cops were there early Friday afternoon with a search warrant to check things out. And when they came in, she told them that there were 5 kids on site, and there were actually 9. And I guess the reason that she didn't tell them about the 4 is because 3 of them were shut up in the dark in the closet of the master bedroom, strapped in their car seats with shoestring ligatures tied around their necks in the dark. And there was another one in the master bathroom tied up the same way. And what was reported is that all 9 of the kids were actually found the same thing. They were still in their car seats, and they had shoestrings tied around their necks to tie their necks into the car seats. And cops apparently even had to cut some of them off. They were tied on so tightly. And so they had the video evidence, and they had all these trussed up kids, and she fessed right up and said that she typically left the kids in that condition for up to 7 hours a day. The ligatures were there to prevent the kids' movement so they couldn't release themselves from the car seats. And she admitted to giving them Tylenol to make her job easier. And I said in the write-up, I think that's being misreported. Tylenol wouldn't do anything to help control a kid. Tylenol is acetaminophen. It's the stuff you take for a headache if you're, well, I don't know. I don't take it. Kind of dangerous stuff, actually. But I think what it was is she was using like a Tylenol cold product that had antihistamines in it. I've known people that were parents that would jokingly refer to Dimetap as Dimonap for that reason. Kid gets a cold, you give them some of that cold stuff with antihistamines, it knocks them right out because that's what antihistamines do. Regardless, she was drugging them to make it easier for her to do her job, quote unquote, which means that keep them from bothering her, whatever she was doing during the day when the kids were trussed up and drugged up. So the kids were evaluated and released to their parents. It doesn't sound like any of them suffered any too severe damage. At least it wasn't reported if they did. Department of Family and Protective Services is investigating, which we all know from all the stories on the website doesn't mean jack. And she was jailed on 9 counts of criminally negligent child endangerment, and her bail was set at $45,000. So just because your child care provider doesn't have a history of deficiencies with the local regulatory authority, that doesn't mean your kids aren't being drug hogtied and left in the dark. I guess that's the warning there to parents.
I got so lucky with daycare. I mean, when my kids were younger, I did have to put them in regular, established big building type daycares. But they were more no home daycares. They were like, the not that they're safe or anything. They may be, I don't know, but a real good friend of mine, ex-girlfriend of mine, actually, her mom opened up a home daycare, so my kids went there for a bit, and that just took a load off my mind, especially later when we started doing this site. God damn, my my browser keeps running out of memory. But yeah, I got really lucky on that, because I tell you what, I remember back, and this would have been years ago, decades ago now. Fucking daycare was expensive, man. I don't know how much it is now, but I imagine it didn't get lower in price. So not only was somebody paying this lady probably an exorbitant amount of money to watch their kids, she was tussing them up. That's what I do for a cold, though. I mean, not saying I would do it to a kid, but man, whenever I get sick with anything, if I even feel like I'm getting something, it's fucking that NyQuil stuff, man.
Yep. Take that stuff, get in bed, pile the covers on, get your temperature up, and just sweat that shit out, man.
That's what I do. It works it works like a charm. I got somebody who always, whenever their kid got sick, it didn't even matter what it was, just the beginnings of anything, sniffles or whatever, they ran them straight to the doctor. Every time ran them straight to the doctor. And, of course, they would keep giving them antibiotics for this and that and this and that. And then over the years, of course, whenever something that around, they get it every fucking time because their immune system's so messed up.
Well, going to the doctor's office is a great way to get even sicker than you are anyhow.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just common sense. That's where all the sick people are, sitting there waiting to see the doctor.
Let's see here. Another one out of Texas is I guess
Super Glue Bandit.
Yeah, this was the last one I did, and this was the man out of Odessa. He supposedly, I guess, he beat a 14-month-old girl and glued her eyes and mouth shut with super glue. So it looks like the cops were called to a house or apartment, I don't know what, and the woman there said her husband had just fled and he had beat their 14-month-old daughter and had glued her. Actually, had gotten like a glue stick and had put it all over her face. That's what he had done. And
he just happened to glue her eyes shut.
Right.
By happenance.
It was an accident. He was trying to pick something. And but they also found a 2-month-old baby under a pile of pillows and blankets. So if I'm not mistaken, he got aggravated. The 2-month-old baby was crying. He covered the baby up with a bunch of blankets and pillows, and then I guess just lashed out at the 14-month-old. But they caught him later. I guess he did flee, but he was caught later.
They had to run for the border, it sounds like.
Yeah, he was 230 miles away when they got him. So he's been charged with injury to a child causing serious bodily injury. I do not have an update on any of my articles, but this was a Johnny Lee Carter, 29 years old. Oh, yeah, and I mentioned in there, too, I forgot, we actually did have another super glue. We had another super glue story.
Of course we did.
Yeah. I was like, when I was typing it, I was like, man, I remember typing super glue before, so I went to look, and sure enough, I don't even know how I forgot this story. I don't know if you remember, but it was that Jennifer Vargas, and the name immediately rang a bell.
The name sounds familiar.
Well, she's the one that grabbed her 6-year-old kid's genitals and jerked on him so hard she ripped open his scrotum. And to stop his testicles from popping out, she used super glue to close the wound. Tell me that ain't some shit.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
Great one.
I couldn't believe I forgot it. Let's see here. We also had Salisbury, North Carolina. Speaking of North Carolina, real quick, did you see the protests going on in Oregon? Jaded, I've seen those, but
I've been watching the news. I don't want to.
Well, just some real quick background. I'm not even going to get into this story, but you got a story of a black man that it's looking like he had shot 2 people, and when the cops responded, they ended up loading him up with some lead because from what they say, he had a handgun that he used to shoot 2 other people, and he was turning on them, and so they unloaded on him. Okay, now again, I don't know if that's what actually happened or not. That's what's being reported. But of course, they want justice for this black man that was shot by these cops. So, of course, what always happens in Portland, a large group of white people went out and, started blocking traffic and shit. And
tearing stuff
up. So, anyway, the reason why I bring this up was because one of the people... now, these are people that are out here championing against racism and all this other stuff, and they had blocked a car from moving in traffic. And, of course, they had no legal right to do any of this. They can protest, but they were out there just blocking regular traffic. And anyway, this one guy decides he wants to keep going, so they start arguing with the guy, and I guess the guy had stated he was from North Carolina, right? And so these anti-racist people started telling him to, go back where he came from. He's not welcome there. Go back to the Klan. Basically insinuating because he was from North Carolina, then he was obviously a card-carrying Klansman.
Sounds very open-minded.
They are totally... Well, I was going to say, the funniest part was, and it was, I guess they're completely unaware, no self-awareness, and I think it was a great little symbolic gesture, is that they started screaming at him that he could go to go right. So of course he turns and goes right. But I thought that was the funniest thing, that these people that act like that absolutely do not understand that they are creating their own enemies doing this. And I thought that them screaming at some guy from North Carolina to go right was very symbolic. But yeah, check it out if you get a chance to watch some of that crap. You should. It's infuriating.
In Portland, they protest because it's Tuesday. So their protests lose a lot of their voice out here because they're doing it all the time for many different reasons. And half the time, if you're watching this shit on the news, a newscaster will go up and ask this person, so what are you out here fighting for? And you get some idiot on meth going, well, injustice and stuff, and we're just fed up. They don't have a point anymore.
What's killing me is if you watch any of the coverage on these, and I'm using the word protest very lightly. It's actually mobs is what they're doing. And what's funny is if you watch mainstream media reporting on this, they absolutely will not allow any dissenter call these people mobs. They say that this is not mobs. To them, a mob is what happened in Charlottesville. So if it's alt-right people, or what they deem alt-right people, protesting and it erupts in some type of violence, that's a mob. But if it's a left-leaning group of people who gather and violence calls out, that's their God-given American right to protest.
I did see one article recently where other cities named Portland, the one I'm talking about is in Michigan, they're getting a bunch of shit because of the protests here in Portland, Oregon. They seem to think it's the same fucking protest in a different state.
Oh, that's kind of funny.
They're not even bothering to read what this is based around. Oh, you're in Portland? Oh, well, you suck.
Oh, that's kind of
Doesn't matter
funny.
if you're Portland, Michigan, Portland, Maine, Portland, where the fuck ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's become ridiculous.
Well, admittedly, I have stayed away from the news for the last couple of weeks. I had a couple things happen God damn it, my browser. How about I quit embarrassing myself with that and put this on a different screen? I had some work-related stuff that has kept me very busy over the last couple of weeks, and so at night I have been working on getting the site, transformed over into this new format. So my time has been very short. So I haven't even had time to peruse the news for any type of news. But it was just today. I was just clicking around on YouTube and had started seeing some of that Portland stuff, and I was just, nothing's changed. Everything's exactly the way it was when I left 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Anyway, speaking of North Carolina, Salisbury, North Carolina, adopted brother of Erika Parsons has been charged with bigamy.
Yeah, this is a little fluff story that basically gave me the opportunity to write about the Erika Parsons thing, which happened a number of years back. Real shortly, this guy was a sort of a peripheral figure in that case. Erika Parsons had been adopted by this family, and he has recently been charged with bigamy. He apparently married a woman in June and had not divorced a woman that he had married earlier, and that got on the authorities' radar somehow or other. So they arrested him for that, which is not really that bad compared to some of the stuff that went on with Erika Parsons. And folks who were reading the site back in 2013 will probably remember it. It was a young lady named Erika Parsons, little girl, that was reported missing in July 13. And it turns out that was about 2 years after she was actually last seen alive. And the last time she was seen alive was by this gentleman, James Parsons, who's now 25. And she had been adopted as a newborn by this Parsons family, and had just had a shit life. They singled her out for all sorts of abuse. They starved her. They beat her. They locked her up. At a trial, one of the trials that came out of this thing, James said that he and other children of the family routinely abused her, often at their mother's urging, and that he had once broken her arm. And so they just treated her like a servant, and beat her and treated her badly. And when she disappeared in 2011, no one said anything. They got together a story that she had gone to be with a grandmother, I believe, and which was not true, but that covered things up for a couple of years. And apparently it got on authorities' radar that she was missing. And in the meantime, they'd been continuing to cash the adoption assistance checks, $12,000 worth. And so they ended up going on trial for fraud. And they ended up getting convicted of that in 2016. And that's when all this other stuff about the abuse got dragged out into the open. And in September of 2016, after they had been convicted on these fraud charges and locked up, the father, Sandy Parsons, decided to tell what he knew, and he took them. They got him out of jail briefly, and he took them to a field in South Carolina where they found her remains. And so that led to, in February of this year, they were indicted, both of them, for first-degree murder, felony concealment of a death, and obstruction of justice. And then they added later on felony charges for child abuse with serious physical injury. And in April, prosecutors said that they were going to seek the death penalty, and they have not gone to trial yet. That's still up in the air, but that goes back to, 2011 was when this little girl was last seen. It's 2018 now, and these guys are just now getting ready to maybe go on trial for this murder. But it got back in the news again because her big adopted brother, James Parson, committed bigamy, supposedly. Hasn't been convicted yet, so it's still allegedly at this point.
Yeah, that Erika, that was a big story back in the day. You remember that, Jaden? I mean, that was pretty big news back then.
I don't remember that one. I don't recall it.
You'd remember her picture if you saw it. Let's see here.
Probably.
Anchorage, Alaska, man gets no jail. Oh, this was a crazy one. Man gets no jail after masturbating on woman he choked unconscious.
Yeah, and this is definitely a weird one, just in that this is the first time that this guy's been caught. Supposedly he hasn't ever done this before, at least as far as authorities know. But he choked a woman unconscious and jerked off on her is exactly what he did. I mean, it's just to put it with no hemming and hawing. He in August 2017, this guy was an air traffic controller, and I say was because he's not anymore. But he was at a gas station and offered a ride to a woman that was trying to get to her boyfriend's house. I don't know if she struck up the conversation, if he did, it didn't say, and it doesn't really matter. He drove her to an isolated spot, parked the car, grabbed her, told her he would kill her if she screamed, and then started choking her. and told her he was going to kill her regardless. And then he choked her out. And when she woke up, he had jerked off on her and he was zipping up, and he told her that he, quote, needed her to believe that she was going to die so that he could be sexually fulfilled, which is kind of a fucked up thing to say. But if you know about some of these type rapists, it's maybe not that fucked up thing to say, is maybe what you would expect them to say. There was a witness that saw them together, and so the cops got put on to him, got a hold of him, and she was able to pick him out of a lineup. So he was arrested and charged with kidnapping, second-degree assault, and harassment, and was placed on house arrest. And he was looking at 99 years on the kidnapping count. That was the most serious of the charges that they got him on. And so September 19th, he took a plea deal, and the plea deal eliminated the kidnapping charge. He pled to the assault charge, and the harassment charge went away, and the big kidnapping charge went away. And he walked away with 3 years of probation and sex offender treatment and monitoring, but no active jail time. And that's got a bunch of people in Alaska pissed off. The reason he didn't get any jail time is because on the assault charge, the judge gave him the maximum sentence, which was 2 years. The judge suspended 1 year of the sentence, and he was given time served credit for the year that he spent under house arrest waiting for the trial, or which he didn't end up going to trial. Obviously, he took a plea deal, but he spent a year locked up before he did that on house arrest. And so the people who are so upset about this say, well, why did they give him this plea deal that took kidnapping off the plate? And the state justice officials said that, they took the best option that they felt like they had. Apparently the woman had what they said was did not have a stable living environment. They were going to have this hearing and they couldn't find her. And they were worried about whether or not they were going to be able to find her to be a witness at the trial. And they said, look, if we go to trial and we don't have this witness, this whole case goes away and this guy's going to walk and he's not going to get anything. And we at least got something. They dropped the kidnapping charge because they didn't feel like they could prove it beyond a reasonable doubt in front of a jury, because she went willingly with the guy. She got in the car with him. She never apparently said stop or anything like that until he grabbed her and was choking her. And then at that point, she can't say anything. So they felt like if they got in front of a jury, maybe the kidnapping charge falls away. And the other thing is, apparently, if they hadn't made the plea deal, the guy wouldn't have gotten sex offender status. And this is the weirdest thing about it. Even if they'd convicted him on all three of the charges he was up on, there were no sexual charges. And you think, well, why weren't there any sexual charges? He jerked off on her. And apparently in Alaska right now, the act of ejaculating on an unconscious victim is not a sex crime. So that's where I guess the harassment charge came from. That's what it's harassment if you spooge on someone in Alaska.
Hold on, I'm writing down notes here real quick.
Okay.
Alaska.
Moving to Alaska.
Can masturbate on an unconscious person.
So I guess that's the good news. This guy does have a sex offender status, and he is at least going to be monitored. But a lot of people still feel like, that things could have been handled better, or that he should have gotten more. I think probably everyone feels like he should have gotten more. But, I'm looking at the argument that the state justice officials are making, and I can see where they're coming from. If they hadn't been able to convict this guy, he wouldn't have gotten anything and he wouldn't have a record. And apparently, I'll point out before you do move to Alaska that it sounds like that little loophole is going to close soon. The governor, Sean Parnell, has vowed to introduce legislation that would, quote, make unwanted contact with semen a sex crime, punishable on the first offense by 2 to 12 years in jail and sex offender status. So if you're going to do it quick.
Why don't they should make that with any type of bodily fluids like that. Well, no, because, maybe you could, but no, because then spit, you couldn't do that.
Well, the whole wet willy thing we had the other week, that would have been but yeah, they're going to lock down.
Remember there was that story about that chick. She may have been that chick that fucked dogs. I can't remember her name now. She was she was kind of popular on YouTube there for a bit, not for good reasons, but anyway, I think she was doing this quote unquote prank where she would put her hands down her pants and rub her vagina, and then she would go up to people and say, "Could you smell this perfume?" and put it up to their nose. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but why does it have to always be semen? Why can't it be just both?
Right. Well, and I'm sure you could. What would you even
call that?
Vaginal secretions.
Thank you.
I know that because it's other potentially infectious matter.
I was trying to
under,
come up with some
OSHA
different,
regulations.
more disgusting names, but no, I get it. That was
That's
much
what
better.
the government calls it in the biohazard regulations.
Why the hell do
OPI.
you know that?
Because I have had to deal with biohazard kits just here and there in different jobs that I've done, and you have to know the regulations behind them. It's an interesting long list. I wish I could quote it to you, but it's just basically a whole bunch of nasty stuff that you don't want to hear about.
And vaginal secretions was one of them.
The vaginal secretions is one of them. Yeah.
All right, Jaded, you may not remember this, but this is the one out of Vero Beach, Florida. A woman accused of slashing boyfriend's face when he refuses to give her the D.
And this one I only did because she has a great mugshot. She does not give a fuck.
Nope.
Just doesn't. This is Catherine Tavares, and it involved her boyfriend, her live-in boyfriend, Amore Carrero. Apparently, she had been drinking all day, and right around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, she wanted a little, and snuggled up to the boyfriend on the couch and made it pretty clear that she wanted to get naughty, and he said no. And he said no 2 or 3 times, and then she pitched a fit and started screaming at him and going all fucking ape shit. He went out to the patio to get away from her and let shit calm down, and she went and grabbed a knife. And when she came back out to the patio, she was still in the middle of that bitch fit and slashed him in the face several times. And when the police came, he said that she attacked him because he wouldn't give it up. She said that he had been out all evening, and when he came home, he just had those, scars on his face. And when she asked him why his face was all cut up, he got defensive and attacked her with a knife. But she's the one in jail. She's the one that doesn't appear to be bleeding from the face. So I'm guessing the cops bought his story, put her in jail, and she was there on a $15,000 bond.
Catherine Tavares.
Yeah, take her to Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a good one. This was another one from you, Jade, and I got a nice comment that was left on your story you'll like. This is another one out of Florida. The wannabe sniper accused of fatally shooting a 6-pound puppy in the face.
Yeah, this guy. Uh, Johansson Concepcion, whatever, 19. He was arrested after.
Really?
I ain't doing it. He was arrested after he allegedly shot a tiny, teeny, tiny 8-month-old puppy in the face, all from a balcony, all sniper-like, with a pellet gun. And an off-duty cop just happened to be driving past this apartment complex and saw, what appeared to be 2 people standing on a patio, and one of them had what looked like a rifle, a scoped rifle. And then the lady that was walking the little dog just heard a pop, and she looked down, and the dog's bleeding from the face and dead. And some other people around this complex had seen what had happened, and when the cops got there, they all pointed up at this balcony to where the shots came from. And when they made contact with the person in that apartment, it was this guy, old Jughead here, and he told them that it was an accident. He was just firing at the lake, and the dog just hopped in, walked into the line of fire.
Stepped
But
in my way.
his friend said, "You're full of shit." He said, "Watch me," in Spanish. He said, "Watch me shoot this dog," and then he shot the dog.
Yeah.
And so they took him in and put him in bail, $2,500 bail on him.
And can you imagine walking your puppy and it get
No.
killed like that?
No. And the puppy was like 6 pounds, and I didn't put it in the article, but when I was, looking at the links for the stories and stuff, this little girl this dog belonged to a little girl, an 8-year-old girl, who had just moved from one state to another. Her whole household dynamic had changed, and mom got this puppy to make the transition a little bit easier, and then they had to go say, "Oops, your dog's dead."
Well,
Because some asshole with a pellet rifle.
Yep.
I guess because of his name and that he spoke Spanish, that you mentioned in the article, one of our comments, you can see here that basically this was Obama's fault. So you actually got a thanks.
Obama.
Yeah, you actually got a thanks Obama comment.
Yep.
You-
Every
you-
fucking article, there's one, man.
Yeah. Well, if it's not Trump, it's Obama. Yeah. So it was like
Yep.
the comment says, "Is this piece of shit an illegal? I bet he is. Thanks, Obama." And you lovely liberal Democrats, you proved the point that God does have a sense of humor.
You can't escape the shit.
No, everything's
There's definitely
political.
No getting away from it.
No.
I'm telling you, I could sit there and watch because I'm woman enough to admit this, but I watch lots of videos with puppies. I mean, that's my happy place is puppies. And I shit you not, they will argue politics on a video of a cute puppy.
You know what animal ones
believe
I've
it.
been watching is I get stuck watching because the older I've gotten, and it hasn't been because of the site. I think I would have been like this regardless. But the older I've gotten, the less I like watching people die. I still like watching people get hurt, but I don't like watching people, and by hurt I mean like accidents and stuff. But I'm still fascinated by amusement park accidents, and I still like workplace accidents. But watching people die, I remember back in the day that was kind of fascinating to me, but it's not any longer. And animal abuse. I mean, I remember I used
Can't do it.
I used to post the stories, and of course, I mean, it bothered me, but not to the point where I couldn't write about it and look at the pictures to get the story written. I avoid them now. I don't know if it's because of this recent dog I have now that all of a sudden I've just got this newfound empathy for animals, but I find myself on YouTube going down this damn rabbit hole with this one channel. Hope for Paws, maybe. I can't remember their name. But they're the people that go out and they get these stray-ass dogs that people report, and they look like they just crawled out of a dead man's ass, and they're matted.
Yeah.
And I only watch them because you know that they're going to fix the dog by the end of the video, right?
And the dog's going to
Got
be
a happy ending.
Right. So, yeah, I have to watch shit in reverse. I have to watch an abused dog and then know that by the end of the video it's going to be cool and the dog's going to be fine. But, yeah, I can't watch animals getting abused at all. I don't know what it does, but just
I can't stomach it.
I think the death thing, that's just a natural part of getting older.
yeah. I think the more you're facing
you don't see it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly it.
yeah, and when you're younger, you're not going to die anyway. So it's more kind of cool to not cool like oh wow I'm cool, but kind of cool to see that kind of shit. And it was also
Right.
very new back in the day. Now I know kids today they can
Exactly.
see it at any time they want, but back when we were growing up, seeing someone die on camera was rare or non-existent in real life. And I know for a fact it wasn't until you may see some clips of like the JFK assassination, some historical deaths. You might see some of that stuff, but it wasn't until the home video market hit, and when you started getting
Right.
stuff from Traces of Death and Faces of Death and those Mondo Bizarro type videos that you could actually see stuff like that. And I was utterly fascinated by it. And but yeah, and then of course the internet. But yeah, it's like the older I get, the less I really care about watching it. But yeah, it's probably because you're getting closer to facing it yourself, so you don't really want it waved right in front of
No,
your face.
To me, it's just because I like puppies. So
And that could be it too. That could be it too. But yeah, I don't get that same sense of stuff. And it could be just the fact that I've seen so much of it. Like, there's a video going around right now. You don't see her die. I don't know if you've seen this, and I can't remember where this is at. It may have been Brazil or something, but it's this dumb chick, a 27th floor balcony, and somebody from another building just happens to be filming the balcony of another building. And they kind of come up on her, and she's sitting on the railing with her back to the open air, and she's taking a selfie, and
Of
she
course.
fucking falls, man. And he follows her all the way down, but it's kind of obscured where she landed down. But this was just something that just happened here very recently, within the last day or so. But they got video of it, of her falling, and they got an actual snapshot of where it's probably apparent that she knew exactly what was about to happen. That her death was about a second away. I think she still has the goddamn phone in her hand.
I was gonna say that last
knows
picture on the
that?
phone, man. That should be the winner right there.
Yeah, well, we've had so many selfie deaths. I mean, I post them whenever I find them, and in fact, had I been posting stories today, I would have grabbed that one just to add to the collection of selfie deaths. But it seems like a lot of them are always. We've had a couple car ones, but it was the trains. Remember, there was this thing with trains. We're trying to get as close as you could to a train as it was coming, and people were getting killed doing that.
That would do it.
Yeah, it would.
It's like the Price is Right thing where you try to guess like just at the price, but not over.
I like that yodeling guy on Price is Right.
Oh my God.
That little yodeling fucker. When I'd stay home sick from school, my mom would have Price is Right as on. And I loved watching it when I was sick and I'd stay at home. It's like one of my memories from being sick and staying at home was watching fucking Price is Right. And the fact that she got me hooked on General Hospital.
You are so fucking random. Oh my God.
Well, he just said Price is Right, and it always reminds me of that little yodeling fucker. I always loved it when they didn't get it, because when he would fall, he would make some weird noise on top of the weird-ass yodeling he was doing on the way up anyway.
Yeah.
That little yodeling fucker. Yeah, she got me hooked on the fucking Luke and Laura storyline from General Hospital back in the 80s, or I guess that would have been the early 80s. The cricket sounds, you don't know what I'm talking about.
I never watched soap operas.
I don't either.
I never did. Not even when I was little and at home in bed sick.
I was on a couch sick. Thank you very much. It wasn't like I was forced to watch it in my room. I didn't have a choice. My mom loved her soaps.
I think I accidentally watched one time. It was Days of Our Lives or something, and that was.
Oh no, they were horrible. Even I knew that they were horrible when I was watching it, but they did them in a way that, you know, I don't fucking know. They kind of hooked you in. It was like
Sure.
It was like
I mean, you are thinking about it many years later.
I know their names. Luke and Laura.
Storylines.
Luke, I can't remember the storyline. I just remember Luke and Laura, and I remember that they were trying to. I don't remember. Regardless, I do remember their fucking names. It was a big deal back in the day.
You don't remember.
What?
You're pretend.
I'm so glad you just clipped all out of the place. I didn't hear a thing you said.
Never mind.
Okay. Was it good?
It was good.
Was it as good as the guy talking about my Maverick on one of our last podcasts?
No.
Okay.
That was classic shit.
I
will never forget
I meant to save it so we could put it on the quote thing up at the top, and I forgot to save it, so I don't remember exactly what they said, but it was a good one.
It was good.
Let's see. The last one. Actually, the last story we posted on the site was from October the 2nd from U-Metal, and this was the meth-addled couple accused of killing man so they could live in his house.
Yep, and that's exactly what they did. You know, meth makes you do weird things. It distorts your problem-solving skills, and you end up with things like this. It was a couple in Tacoma, Washington, Jeremy and Lorena Shaw. They needed a new place to live, and Shaw went out and picked out a new house and killed homeowner dude, and they moved right the fuck in. Problem solved. Authorities allege that Shaw had gone up there earlier in the month with a sham petition for rights for veterans or something as an excuse to get a look at the property and to get a copy of his signature, ostensibly for future nefarious reasons. That's what we would think. Apparently, the property size, it was 7 acres, and it was isolated. Not isolated like out in the country isolated, but it wasn't visible from the road. And that sort of, they think, was one of the reasons that Jeremy Shaw chose this place. So September 19th, he went back out there and knocked on the door. And when Morphus answered the door, he pepper sprayed him and beat him in the head repeatedly and then cut his throat. And he hid the body and brought Lorena to their quote unquote new home and warned her not to go in the shed, sort of a Bluebeard thing, or Blackbeard was the pirate. So that would have been Bluebeard that had the tower full of dead women, I guess. So he only had the one, but he said, don't go in the shed. And she didn't, and he would have gotten away with it, except for some damn handymen. They showed up on September 20th in the evening. Apparently, the homeowner Amorphous had scheduled with them in advance for them to come do some work. They started poking around when they couldn't find him, and they found his body in a shed. He was bound hand and foot, wrapped in a tarp and a comforter. So they called the police. and the police come out and check things out, and they ended up later on looking at the guy's cell phone, and what they found was that the morning that of the day when they found the body, the cell phone went from Morphus's house to another place in Tacoma, and it stayed there all day, and then it came back to Morphus's house that evening, and it stopped pinging the towers about midnight. And the body was found at 7:15. The cell phone was pinging near Morphus's property at 7:40 that night, and there were already cops on scene. So basically, what it looks like happened is they left that morning and came back, and the cops were there, and they scooted. So early the next morning, there was an attempt to transfer $4,100 of Morphus's money via his debit card to a company called Arian Enterprises, Jeremy Shaw, and I'm not making that name up. That attempted money transfer did not work. 2 hours later, they found the burned out car, Morphus's car, in a parking lot. So it's obvious what happened. These guys got spooked the night before, said, well, we got to get this money. Did it the only way they knew how, which was to transfer it to this company that belonged to this guy, which just shows how, like I said, you do dumb shit when you're on meth. And then they panicked and dumped the car and burned it. So the police see the botched money transfer, and it's pointing right to this guy. And when they look at the cell phone data, it's showing that the phone was right near his house that day when the body was found. So then they look at his history, and he's got drug charges and theft-related convictions dating back 15 years. He did 7 years for burglary, and he had open charges for forgery, drug possession, and unlawful possession of a firearm at the time. So they're thinking, yeah, this could be our guy. So they go to a judge, get a search warrant, search his legal house where he is allowed to be living, and they find the shredded remnants of Morphus's bank card and driver's license, as well as property that was taken from his residence. So police have this case wrapped up pretty damn tight. I don't think they'll have any problem convicting these guys. Jeremy was charged with first-degree murder, arson, burglary. Lorena was charged with first-degree rendering criminal assistance, arson, and burglary. He got $1 million bail. She got $100,000 bail. They are still locked up. 7 days, that's all it took for his pipe dream of a new life to spiral into the biggest charges of his checkered career. And apparently his wife is singing, and she's throwing him under the bus, so he's screwed. He's not going to get out.
If I was going to kill people just to take their house, I ain't doing it in Tacoma, Washington.
Yeah, I think that's like the second drug couple we've had as well within the last couple months that have killed random people for whatever drug-related reason. Remember, we just had that one where they killed that elderly couple and took their car. I don't know if you remember that one, but that was just a month or so ago.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, meth.
I don't remember yesterday.
Never interested in it.
It definitely provides a lot of fodder for the site. It's a really good drug that way. You get someone that's been up on that shit for about 3 days. They're completely irrational. They're crazed, out of their minds. If anything could happen. Yeah,
never been real interested in it. I know you have a problem with it where you're at, Jaded, but
oh yeah. It's great. Now we add the heroin with it, and it's just wonderful.
Well, that's the big comeback drug, is it not? Heroin. I mean, that's the one that was the one I always wanted to try, but was too chicken shit because just from people throw everything away, their entire lives, careers, everything for that drug, and so that not only was enticing to me, but also just completely I'm a chicken shit because of it.
Well, it's such an attractive looking thing too. I mean, when I see them nodding off on the fucking sidewalk in the gutter, it's cute. It's attractive. I can see why people want to do it.
Well,
it's hip.
Well, I mean, of course, I don't know because I haven't done it. But I mean, if you think about some of your most, I don't know, prolific artists or celebrities or whatnot that have died from some type of a drug overdose, that's usually what it is it not?
Yes.
A lot of times.
And pills. But yeah, heroin.
Oh, it looks like that we, our stream got interrupted.
Oh, that's lame.
No, there it just came back. But yeah, it just stopped for a second. But yeah, so I always remember that comedian talking about that. That's when he's elderly and he's old and his life is pretty much where it is and where it's going to be before that's what he wants to do is become a heroin addict. And I always thought that was a great idea. I think I might finally try it when I'm an old ass man.
Do it inside so nobody has to look at your fucking ass
Fuck
nodding off
that.
in the gutter
Fuck
with a
that.
needle in your arm.
I'm gonna be nodding off like that, heroin or not. I'm gonna be that old fart in the McDonald's with a zipper open and a newspaper.
Face down in his Big Mac.
No, it'd be a cold coffee and whatever early bird special I can get on a damn McMuffin.
I want you cheapest McMuffin and a fresh coffee. Don't give me that old shit.
Thanks for that picture, too. I appreciate that.
You know where we ate at lunch today? My buddy, before we went to go shooting, he had watched a commercial that Arby's had a 2 for $6 for their gyro sandwiches that they have there. So we stopped in at Arby's, and I got a fucking gyro from Arby's. And it was a regular Greek style, and then one with beef in it. And to their credit, they weren't bad. But man, what is it about that tzatziki sauce, dude? Do you ever eat that?
I've had it.
I haven't.
It fucking murders me. It is now 11:42. I ate that almost 11 hours ago, and I still have heartburn from it. It does it every time I fucking eat it, every single time.
You're old, and why would you keep eating it if it does that?
Because it had been no, it's not that it tastes that good. It's just that it's tzatziki sauce. It's just like asking, does tartar sauce taste that good? Tartar sauce is just good.
If tartar sauce is good.
What I'm getting at is tartar sauce for the most part you eat in one situation. It's not like you eat cereal or make a pizza and say, I like some fucking tartar sauce on that. So, and tzatziki sauce is about the same way for me. It has to be on something like a gyro or something.
I don't know. I guess if it gave me heartburn for 11 hours, I would forever remember that and never put it in my mouth.
No,
again.
that happened today. Today's the longest. Before then, there's been a long fucking gap between the last time I had tzatziki sauce and today.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Calm down.
The Haunting of Hill House, and that was one thing I wanted to say before we got off of here. That is a damn good series on Netflix right now. If you have Netflix and you're in the Halloween spirit, as I am all year round, but if you're especially in one during October and you have Netflix, definitely check that damn series out.
I'm doing that as soon as we're done here.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm a few episodes in, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it. You think it get kind of confusing because it jumps back and forth on a timeline. You see what happened before and after with these kids when they were little and now that they're older. And for a second there, you think it's going to be a little bit confusing keeping up, but you get over it very quickly.
Good to know.
Yep, so definitely check that out. But unless you guys have anything else going on that you want to talk about, or if anybody has any questions in regards to the site or any questions at all, I see people in chat. If they have any, by all means, do so now. I'll hang on for 1 second.
I'm just going to throw out there just to give us closure on the definition under OSHA bloodborne pathogen standards of OPIM or other potentially infectious materials. The following human bodily fluids: semen, vaginal secretions, cerebrospinal fluid, synovial fluid, pleural fluid, pericardial fluid, peritoneal fluid, amniotic fluid, saliva and dental procedures, any bodily fluid that is visibly contaminated with blood, and all bodily fluids in situations where it is difficult or impossible to differentiate between them.
Don't be throwing no spine fluid at me.
Yeah.
That's gross.
Well, learned something today.
And talented, too, if you can throw your spinal fluid at. No, I don't want nobody's fluids on me, period.
Yeah, it makes that scene from Silence of the Lambs look like nothing.
Which one? Oh,
the one where she walks by and he
Muggs.
gets her.
Wasn't his name Muggs?
Yeah. Miggs or Muggs or something.
Muggs, I can't remember. Yeah. He had good aim.
He did, man. That was
that shit usually never goes where you flick it.
I remember seeing that in the movie theater and laughing my ass off when that happened and not believing that they put it in the movie at the same time.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that too.
Morbid.
What's that?
Practice makes perfect, Morbid.
Yeah. That is
never
true.
Goes where it's supposed to go.
I don't know if anybody tried to sling that shit, but it never goes where you think it's going to go. That thing don't want to let go.
It's like a rubber band.
Yeah.
Good God.
Yeah. But anyway, all right. Well, I guess that's a good note to to stop the stream. Yeah, I think we'll definitely be back next Saturday. Even if we don't have content on the front page, we will definitely have content going on our new one. So we'll definitely have some stories to talk about because I'm going to continually work on this every day until we get it going as quick as possible. So. But anyway, if you guys will stay on just for a second, I'd appreciate it. I'm going to stop this stream real quick. And everybody, thanks again for coming out tonight and listen to us ramble. And we will more than likely be back next Saturday.
Bye.
Thanks, y'all.